All right, let's dive right into a real puzzle at the very heart of the U.S. government, administrative law. Today, we're going to explore this really fascinating idea that explains why this whole area of law feels so, well, so different, almost alien compared to everything else in the American legal system.
So, have you ever really thought about all those government agencies, the EPA, the SEC, the FCC, and just felt like the way they operate, their rules and procedures, it all seems like it's from a totally different universe than the courtroom dramas we're used to seeing on TV? Well, if you have, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common feeling. And guess what? There's a very specific reason for it.
And here's the thing. The reason it feels so alien is because it isn't just one thing. It's not quite the common law system we got from England, the one that's all about judges and precedents. And it's not really the civil law system you'd see in France, which is all top-down and based on a strict code. The real answer? It's a hybrid. It's this fascinating fusion of both. So to really get a handle on this fusion, we're going to use a really helpful concept. It's called French common law. Now look, this isn't an official legal term you'll find in a textbook, but it perfectly captures the dual nature of the system. Just think of it like a key, right? A key that lets us see exactly how these two kind of competing legal traditions were stitched together to create the administrative state we have today.
And honestly, this quote just nails it. It's a civil law skeleton with a common law bloodstream. I mean, what a great way to put it. The rigid structure, right? The bones of the whole thing. That's the civil law part. But the stuff that brings it to life, the dynamic, evolving part, that's the bloodstream. And that is pure common law. So let's break down exactly what that means.
Okay, first up, let's take a closer look at that skeleton. We're going to examine the French side of this equation, the parts of the system that are really built on a foundation of civil law logic. All right, so when we say the structure is French or that it's based on civil law, what does that actually mean in the real world, like in practice? What are the bones of this thing really made of?
Well, let's look at the evidence. For starters, administrative law is super statute-driven. It all flows from these top-down codes, like the Administrative Procedure Act or the specific enabling acts that Congress passes to create and empower an agency. Then you've got the agencies themselves acting like specialized courts, kind of like France's Conseil d'État. That's a high court they have just for administrative disputes, completely separate from their regular court system. And finally, the whole process emphasizes codified rules and bureaucratic expertise, not the evolving precedents set by judges. So in short, the whole structure is really top-down and code-based. That's the skeleton.
But, a skeleton is just a frame, right? It can't do anything on its own. It needs a circulatory system to actually function. So now let's move over to the English side and see how all of this becomes a living, breathing legal system. This is where we get to the common law bloodstream.
And this is a great way to see the two systems right next to each other. On one side, you've got that French skeleton. It's all about structure, statutes, codes. But on the other side, you have the English bloodstream. This is the part of the system that gets shaped by case-by-case court decisions. Think of the famous Chevron case, for example, which basically set the rules for how much courts should listen to an agency's expertise. These big ideas, these doctrines, they evolve over time through court challenges. And the remedies you can get, like a court issuing an injunction to stop an agency from doing something, that comes straight out of the common law tradition. It's this constant push and pull between the rigid structure and this fluid, evolving bloodstream that really defines the whole thing.
Okay, so this whole idea is pretty interesting, academically speaking, but why does it actually matter, in the real world? Well, it turns out that understanding this hybrid nature explains a ton about the conflicts and controversies we see surrounding government agencies all the time.
So let's break it down. First, it totally explains that alien feeling we talked about at the beginning. That top-down continental logic just feels foreign to anyone who's used to the pure common law system. Second, it explains so much of the political debate. A lot of that fighting really stems from the natural tension between these two traditions being forced to work together. And finally, it shows us that administrative law really acts as its own unique layer of government, kind of operating alongside but still separate from the traditional court system we all know.
And all of this leaves us with one last really important question to think about. We've established that this entire system is a hybrid, right? It's a fusion of a top-down structure and an evolutionary case-by-case process. So, what happens when those two traditions, the skeleton and the bloodstream, start pulling in opposite directions? That question, well, that right there is the central defining tension of American administrative law.